And welcome back to the 12th man on this wonderful Friday afternoon. Well, it might be for you, Colin, but not so much for me. And some of the people listening are probably having a great time. Maybe not so much Liverpool fans, definitely not Spurs fans. I think I had Owen on here a few weeks ago. He's a Newcastle fan. I actually feel like I'm at the moment. Just do not know where the club's going at the minute, Colin. Obviously, brilliant to have you on. Really enjoyed your first show. Um, you obviously campaigned. We're not going to say too much more, but you campaigned on Mourinho getting them out of United. Anybody that knows you close will know exactly what I mean. So you're almost a perfect guest to have on for this show. So delighted to have you back.
Good man, Gary.
Um,
Delighted to be back and chat more football. We love it.
your special subject is Jose Mourinho as well. So I think it's quite fitting that we have you in. Um, Obviously, I was on the show here. Obviously, I've done a podcast on Monday, and it was only Christie, obviously coaches at Maiden City with us. And I actually said it. I just don't, even in a crazy season, I just did not see Spurs getting anything last night. To be honest, I was quite disappointed in Chelsea. I thought they were very poor. But they don't have to play that well. They won, and this is becoming a recurring theme. I think Liverpool, we made mistakes, gifted them the one against Brighton. I think Brighton had to play a lot better against Liverpool to get the points last night. Chelsea as well. They needed a penalty, and then all right, they had a couple of chances, but a better Spurs team, I think, would have won the game. But again, I think one chance in the whole game. First half, I think Chelsea had 70% of the ball. Spurs didn't have a shot at all. Obviously, you probably anybody else probably won't. Geez, Gary, is it that bad? Is it that bad? But you probably know exactly what I mean. So, Colin, just on the game last night, did you see a lot of similarities between, well, even over the last few weeks, of the end of Mourinho at Man United that we're seeing at Spurs?
What do you think the answer's going to be?
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. Isn't
No, I couldn't believe it too last night, and it's been bad with Spurs. Even when Spurs were doing well and getting results, go 1-0 up and just sit back, and that negative mentality, and that comes from the manager. But last night was just, he didn't lay a glove on Chelsea. They
a
sat.
vulnerable Chelsea team as well.
Sometimes I don't mind a team sitting back in their shape, but there comes a point where you have to make a challenge, and there was no tackles throughout that first half. It was
It
awful.
was
It was
passive,
so
wasn't it?
easy.
So
That
passive.
it was so easy from Chelsea's point of view. I guarantee Tuchel was probably going, "What is going on here?" The only the, the only positive going into half time was the scoreline. That's the only positive.
I see after the game, Mr. Mike interviewed, and I think he was struggling not to laugh. I don't think he's had an easier night, to be honest. He had so much space. They asked him about the game, and obviously at the end Spurs had to put a wee bit of pressure on, but that can happen when you don't finish a game off. And when a team you can just resort to being towards the end. But I think he was saying like it could have been a few more goals, and he's made it quite uncomfortable for yourselves. I think he was struggling not to laugh. I thought he couldn't believe how easy it was. He was obviously saying after the game, that Tuchel's come in, they're only getting used to the style of play. So again, a new manager comes in. Obviously, there's a lot of a bounce, but Chelsea, you could see in Chelsea's play, they were um, no means completely understanding the way Tuchel wanted them to go. So they were vulnerable. And I don't think Mount had an easier night this season. It was so easy, and if you say it, almost I think he was embarrassed because some of his friends are obviously English and playing the Spurs team. I think so.
It was it was all throughout Chelsea. I was looking, who I was looking at as well. Reece James, and he was getting forward at
Bombing
will,
forward.
and in space. Actually, I know he's a physical lad. I know he's a big enough chap. Anyway, but it looked to be a man against a boy up against was it
Davis.
Davis and one or two others, and that was
What
throughout. That was a common theme throughout. They
what was
had time.
happening? What was
They had
happening?
time in the ball. And they were too
Aye.
physical. They were too sharp.
Mm.
They just didn't probably have. Chelsea probably didn't have that cutting edge in that first half, but right up to that final piece, it was embarrassing from
You know what it
Spurs.
was? See, because Spurs were so deep and so defensive, what was happening was Davis was getting sucked in almost like a third centre half, and then Bergwijn was obviously told to be defensive on the right hand side, so that enabled all that space on the left hand side. for Reece James to just bomb forward at will. He had the freedom of that whole side because Davis been sucked in because the whole team was so defensive, and it was you say it was embarrassing.
We know Mourinho's throughout the years he's quite a pragmatic defensive coach, but surely, Gary, I don't care what anybody says, nobody sends their team out to be that passive and defensive. Nobody in this world worth their salt as a manager sends their team out. Yes,
Jason Conde, right, made a really good he made a point. You can maybe answer this, and maybe some Chelsea fans or watch can get back to me, but he actually said that if you would Mourinho's second spell at Chelsea and even his spell at United, he's playing even more defensive now at Spurs than he was at them. And he's saying even when they go 1-0 up, he's really playing with a handbrake on, more so than he even was at United and Chelsea. Do you see that the same way, or do you think it's very similar, or do you think he's even more defensive now at Spurs?
I think it's really similar the way it is at Spurs, the way it was at United towards the end. Really, really similar. Although he's done quite well. Well, you mightn't agree. He's had some decent results at Spurs this season. Up until this past maybe 4 or 5 weeks, it's really went bad. But before them last 4 or 5 weeks, Spurs have done okay. But it was over a longer period towards the end at United that I just couldn't bring. I wasn't even looking forward to any games. I knew what way it was going to be, and you heard me speaking before. Just there was a circus leading up to games. There was a circus after games. What happened during the game was just a non-event, and it seems now over the past 4 or 5 weeks with Spurs, there's very, very similar themes in terms of a couple of fallouts with players.
Yep.
Even last night, speaking about Bale, and a couple of wee snide remarks, and then there was a few other wee remarks over the past number of weeks as well. And
I think around Dele Alli and stuff.
And when you're a player, Gary, I don't care. Like players talk obviously, and they're on their wee clicks obviously, and see once you rub one up the wrong way, then you're probably rubbing up 2 or 3 others as well the wrong way. And for the life of me, like I'm not Mourinho will know more about football and his wee finger than I'll ever know. But for the life of me, how he can't see that the way he manages in this modern day is it just won't work with the modern day player. It just will not work.
See, obviously something I've been looking at over the last couple of games has been the body language of the players, because there hasn't been much else to watch, to be honest. You haven't been seeing much chances or attacking football. So obviously I've been sort of looking at other things. The body language of the players during the Brighton game was concerning. I thought after the first couple of minutes, I said, "You haven't turned up here at all." And you thought going to a place after that Liverpool defeat, going to a place that they haven't won all season, Brighton at home, hadn't won a game. And then he was talking after the game about, "Oh, my players are low in confidence," but Brighton haven't won a game at home all season, and they come out and so you can't use that excuse. It's always excuses. And obviously, as Sonia G said to me before as well, you'll find when things are going wrong, you'll always make excuses. And then I looked at last night. Son's body language was abysmal. He looks completely, and I'm honest, he looks like he's completely unhappy. And Son always gives 100%. He was the last person off the pitch last night. It really hurts him. He's been Spurs a long time, and he does a lot of stuff off the pitch, and obviously Harry Kane and stuff's Spurs boy, but Son he's a foreign player, but he almost has that Spurs because he's got a close affiliation to Spurs coming over here and stuff, and almost his time at Spurs has made him famous. He's a global superstar in South Korea, Son. So he was the last person off the pitch last night, and that can tell a lot. He wasn't just happy to trudge into the change room. And I think when I think Son's game's completely gone because Kane's not there, and then the way the team's playing, it's not suiting Son. So if you've got no Son and no Kane, it's a big hard for any manager, despite the style of play as well.
Exactly. I think it's a culmination of all them things. It's the manager's comments all the time. They're not helpful. The tactics are terrible. Harry Kane being missing. There's the Bale situation, which I have my own thoughts on that. I never thought they should have signed him anyway. But
it's actually turned into a circus on the touchline because Bay is joking and laughing, and I think Bay is trying to get Jose out in a way. I think he's on the touchline, and for a player that's not playing, he's making jokes and he's laughing as if it's a joke.
Yeah.
As you say, I don't think Bay's mentality is there anymore. I don't think he's here to win. I think he's here for a holiday. But obviously, the thing with Jose now, it's almost become him against Jose. And then you say the comments about Bale, the comments about Dele Alli, they're big characters. You look at the Amazon documentary last year. Dele Alli featured a lot in it. The players like him. I'm not saying he's got a massive mentality, but he's very likable. He comes across as very likable, and the players all seem to have relationships with him. So he's alienated Dele. And I think when you're winning, it's something that the players can see. Be like, you want Dele, we're winning, and you're gonna have to try and work it back on the team. And then he has had a couple of games where he's played all right, and he's still been sidelined. And he made I think it was against Stoke in the quarterfinal, where I thought he was the best player on the pitch, and he done a flick that led to Stoke's goal, and Mourinho hammered him after the game, and we haven't seen him since. Haven't seen Dele since. So it's very similar to the Luke Shaw, the Lingard, the way he just sidelined players at United. So I just don't know how you can win these players back. Big personalities.
Exactly. These players nowadays, we just touched on it. The modern day player, they'll just down tools for the manager. It's as simple as that. Like I remember going back to the United days, like young players, really like still class Rashford as a young player now. Remember what he was when Mourinho was there. Mourinho used to have digs at him, digs at Martial, digs at Luke Shaw. Why, I remember Rashford was in and out of the team under Mourinho. And I remember there was a clamour around the media to play him. I can't quite remember the game, but he played him in one of the games. He was in and out of the team, I think. Not quite as a regular as what he is now, but he played Rashford in one of the games. And Rashford didn't have a good game, and he came out after the game, Mourinho, and more or less says, I don't think he named him, but more or less says, does everybody see now why I make these decisions and why I more or less saying, I give him his chance today, he didn't take it. And
I think Jamie Redknapp picked up on something after the Brighton game in Sky. He said, they asked him about the game, and he said, I got better after 60 minutes. And he said, Jamie Redknapp said right away, that's because Bale, he's making a point there about Bale coming off, that he said, I've watched not Jose Mourinho interviews, he's taking Bale out there without saying his name. And Bale will know that, and the team will know that. So you say it's a subtle digs, and as you say, it's not the way the modern day management does. You can't do that anymore. And
I can't believe it. He thinks that that's the way.
And I look at it now, and see, obviously from the Amazon documentary, and this was obviously something I knew anyway, but Daniel Levy's got a big hand in day-to-day runnings at the club. He'll sense the atmosphere in the team at the moment. I mean, everybody can see it. There's an atmosphere there. You can see it. There's a lot of players there. I mean, I don't know if there's any players on his side anymore. Because I thought Dyer would have been one of them. But that penalty last night, Dyer, that looked like sabotage to me. That really does. There's no way Dyer can win the ball there like that. Just he swipe out like that. There's no way. So it almost looked like sabotage. And I thought Dyer last night was awful. Really, really bad. Good. Some of the stuff, even that one where he knocked back De Lloris, it almost like he was trying to score over his head. It just looks like the players now have they're trying to get him out.
I don't know if, Dyer is one that Mourinho has shown pure faith in, right? So
yep.
I'm not sure. I know what you're saying, sabotage. It looked to me like desperation, and it's a lack of confidence, and it's seeping right throughout the team, that negativity and that negative feeling throughout the team. And you can see it, as you said, you can see it in the body language. And it was just, I would say there's probably a handful of players still on his side because he plays these handful of players all the time. Now, they probably have their own views in terms of they don't agree with what he's doing and with certain players and his tactics and that. But I would say he's still but I think that's going to change. He might lose a whole dressing room over the next number of weeks if he keeps going the way he's going.
I think ultimately that's what Levy will base it on. He'll get a sense of the play. He's a smart man, Levy. That's the one thing I was saying. He'll always put the club first. He'll recognise it was him got Levy or Mourinho on him. There is going to be a big contract to pay off, but at the end of the day, the club will always come first. They'll find the money somewhere. But the one thing that I looked at last night was the form It's now 2-1 in the last 10 Premier League games. I think if you go back 12 games, it's 13 points in the last 12 games. Pochettino was sacked from 14 points in the last 12 games. So he's actually a point worse off. So he's in that kind of run that Pochettino was on. But if you even think back to the Pochettino, yes, there was problems. I actually said last night, you could still see Spurs getting results though. There's the games that are unlucky, and I almost thought his luck was out in some games. There was poor results in there, but there were some games as well where his luck was out. And these last few, I don't see any positives at all. I can't, even with West Brom on Sunday, I wouldn't even back us they won that game. I think it's going to be a struggle. But see if you go to see if you look at all them games you were chatting about where Spurs were 1-0 up and they sat back. I'm now looking back. Spurs beat Arsenal to go top of the league on December the 6th. Then they played Crystal Palace, dominated the first half, went up 1-0. And yes, you can say they didn't kill the game off, but second half come out, sat back. Crystal Palace scored in the 81st minute, and then Spurs all of a sudden went on the front foot, and only for a couple of good saves, and the goalkeeper would have won the game. Then you look at the Liverpool game, sat back, got back in the game at 1-1, looked more likely to go on and win it. Then they sat back, conceded a last minute goal, bit 2-1. Then they were very poor against Leicester, bit 2-0. Wolves scored on the first minute, went up 1-0, could have scored 2 or 3 in the first half, come out second half, sat back, conceded in the 87th minute, dropped 2 points. You look at the Leeds, or they beat Leeds, and then they Fulham completely played Fulham off the park first half, 1-0 up, second half, sat back, conceded 1-1, 10 minutes to go, had a goal disallowed, battered them, could have won the game, again, dropped 2 more points. So do you think now the players sort of blame the manager and think, you know what, these tactics have cost us results? Do you think that's the way that, as you say, when they had the results against Man City, against Arsenal, when the tactics worked for them, but do you sort of think that they look at it and go, we've dropped maybe 12 points trying to play your style of play? And as you say, even if you have you hardly can see the whole chance in that second half. All it takes is one moment. And I think at Spurs, one thing that he doesn't have is what he had at our clubs is a proper defence. Even Alex Dyer and Alderweireld, Sanchez, they can have great games, but there's always a mistake on them. Even if they're having a brilliant game, there's always that one moment of concentration, and that's what's happened to most of these games. It's been one or two moments. So you sort of think the players look at it and go, cost us big time there, and then they've sort of lost fifth.
Possibly over a number of weeks. You think that after it's happened once or twice, then
it's happened 4 or 5 times, I think now.
You know that the modern day player always look for excuses anyway, so they don't. There's a lot of them blame somebody else apart from themselves. So they are probably looking at Mourinho, and we know for a fact it doesn't help when Harry Kane's not there. Even when they were doing well, Harry Kane and Son together are probably the best pairing, one of the best pairings in European football. So he's a huge miss. So over them last 10 games that you've seen, that they've only picked up a couple of ones. I don't know how many games Kane's missing now, but
he's only missing 2 games.
Has he only missed 2 so far?
Brighton and Chelsea. He come off at half time in the Liverpool game. He come off at half time, like, but no, they were on this run anyway. They were on the bad run anyway. All them draws where they won up, Kane was playing. And somebody made a great point. United fan I was chatting, he said to me, I remember United, he sucked the life out of the attacking players. They were lifeless on the pitch. He said that there was so much discipline that they couldn't even express themselves. He said once Ollie come on, he didn't have to do much to get a reaction out of them. He just said go and play. And then they went and put 5 past Cardiff in his first game, and it was almost as if as if like you're in a prison and the doors just all opened and everybody run riot. He said that's what it was like, just a complete lease of life. And so that's what I can see. Go see that wee lad he signed from Holland, Bergwijn. He goes, I remember when he came on last year, he was scoring goals, and now because he's been asked to play almost like an auxiliary right back, he just looks lifeless. He just doesn't play with a smile. It just looks like Mourinho's got a lock on him. And he's not allowed past the halfway line at times. I
don't know. I can only see it going one way, right? And that's keeping this trend going of poor football. And
you don't think Mourinho's going to change his tactics?
I can't see it, Gary. Can you? I really can't see it. Now, the only thing I will say is you're saying about Levy, he puts a club first, and he does. I've never been a fan of. First of all, I've never been a fan of sacking managers all the time. The only manager I ever wanted sacked was Mourinho, and that was just because of the circus he brought with everything, and he lost the dressing room too. Now, I don't think Mourinho's lost the dressing room completely just yet.
Yep.
Until he loses the dressing room completely, I think he should keep his job, and if he keeps the dressing room, a lot of the dressing room on side at the end of the season, then he should probably get another window. But it's getting to the end of the season to keep that dressing room, because the way it's going, that downward spiral it could just gather piss.
I think I was chatting to you off camera, right? I was saying that, see, you look at it, right? Mourinho's had a lot of things go his way this season. You look at the injuries Liverpool have had. You look at Man City having no striker for most of the season. De Bruyne has been out injured. They've had a really they've obviously found the rhythm, but them first 10 games, City were miles behind. Chelsea have changed their manager. Arsenal have had a poor season. United have probably been the only team that's had somewhere Spurs way. They haven't really had any injuries. No, Kane's out now. But for that first half of the season, Mourinho had all his players fit. He could nearly name his strongest team every game. He's had no fans in the stadium, which allows his style of play not to come under any pressure from fans inside the stadium. And then the one thing I said to you that's maybe counted against him is his cup final being pushed back to April. I think even with a poor form, Spurs would have run it out this month. Now in February, they let him have that final, because that's ultimately what he's brought him to do, was they won trophies, not they entertain us. It was they won trophies, and they end that sort of 13-year period with a trophy. And on this current form, it's not going to be sustainable. There's no way, if he loses these next few games, I think that'll be it. You know what I mean? You can't keep it going until April. And you look at Spurs' fixture this weekend against West Brom at home. West Brom are probably the team in the league you'd want to play. I know they're defensive and stuff, but they've obviously lost a lot of games, even on their holidays. There hasn't really been a bounce. They even lost to Sheffield United the other night, and Sheffield United have won 3 games since we I was actually our last one, but they've won 3 games in the last month. So they've maybe turned a corner, got more confidence. So West Brom are probably the A-League fixture. I'm actually calling it the Parkle Bus Derby, because even if Mourinho wants to Parkle Bus here, I'm sure Allardyce is going to make sure his bus is even deeper. It's going to be an awful watch. You know, if he doesn't be attacking in this game, he's not going to be attacking in any game. So do you think it's a must-win game on Sunday? Do you think that if they were to lose this, is there any way back? That would be 4 defeats on the bounce in the league.
I know.
2 wins in the last 11 games.
It depends. I know he has a good relationship, doesn't he, with Levy?
But that was last year in that Amazon documentary. Pochettino had a great relationship with Levy, but apparently the last year, I think Pochettino, Klopp is doing some of the things Pochettino's doing now, where he was saying, change my title from manager to head coach. I have no say in transfers, and I think stuff like that can have a negative effect off the pitch. But he was trying to get Levy to spend more money. He thought that the squad, he took it as far as he could, and probably rightly so. But we don't know Mourinho's relationship with Levy over the last couple of months. We don't know if it's changed. But Levy will always put the club first. That's one thing I will back him on. He'll always put the club first, and even if he's a big fan of Mourinho, he'll change it if results. I think the contract's going to be important, because it's going to be a lot of money to pay off, but it's going to cost them a lot more money if they're not in European football next year.
True, and it depends what the long-term plan is, if they've got a long-term plan with Mourinho. And, well, you're saying about European football, I think, forget about the top 4. I don't think Spurs are anywhere near the top 4. Now, Europa League, I think that's their best hope. I don't know if you agree with that, but
I said
depends about that.
I said last night, if we make a big decision in the next couple of weeks, we might have an outside chance of top 4. If we can catch maybe Leicester, or if they have a stop. But as you said, I want it's looking unrealistic.
I think it's highly unrealistic. And I says to you, I don't mind Spurs. Well, under Mourinho, I do mind them. But what was I saying there? The long-term plan. If they do have a long-term plan, they might give him a while. Now, we says already that the thing that's in his favour at the minute is the no fans around, and now. See if we went and got bit by West Brom after what's been happening over the past month or so, or 6 weeks, then he's under severe pressure, and that's why I don't think they'll pull the plug on him yet if they do get bit by West Brom, because
you look at it after that, they've got Everton away in the cup and then Man City away in the league. That's an hour 2 defeats, to be honest. So I think
they might.
I'm going the games. I'm going the games, writing them off now. Writing them off. I've no confidence for West Brom. There's a glimmer of hope for West Brom. against any half decent side. I'm just like, right, fit. May as well just write the game off, blow a whistle, and just give them the 3 points because there's no point. But it's actually resulted now. See, and I wake up in the morning, and I'm not saying I want this to happen because I actually said in the last podcast that I will always be behind the team no matter what. I'm not one of these fans that go, I hope we lose on Sunday to get them out. No chance. I'm never like that. I would never resort to that. Even if it gets the really desperation times, I'll still always want the team to win. But getting the stage run, checking my phone now, as soon as I wake up and I'm seeing the Sky Sports notifications, and I'm just scrolling down to see. I'm waiting for it because Levy's not the type of manager. He's very similar to Chelsea. I think he can pull the plug early at times as well. He has done with our managers. So I think I would not be surprised in the next week if I scroll down and see Jose Mourinho sacked. And it's getting that stage every morning now where I'm waking up in a wave of panic and I'm thinking, Jesus, is it going to? Is this it?
This rings true. Hey, I have honest to God, I have a terrible memory. Right, I can barely remember last week. But see what you've just said there now. Everything that you've just said, honest to God, rings a bell with me about a couple of years ago. But ours was over a prolonged period. It was as if United were just waiting for him to turn the corner, and everybody but United could see that he was never, ever going to turn the corner. And United were holding off. And I was saying, when are they going to do it? And that's when I says for me the Sevilla post-match press conference where he blamed United as a club, saying what he's expected is what United do. They go out in the quarterfinals or last 16 is what they've always done. What he's expected.
Well, he said, did you see what
no blame on himself.
See, in lead up to the press conference, the Chelsea game yesterday, they asked him about Chelsea as a difficult to manage there, and you can turn around and go, right. Yeah, it is. It is. Anyone can take. He goes, no, it's not really. Look at the trophies I've won there, and our managers have won there. It's an easy job, and that's for him to go. If he gets sacked by Spurs, well, look at the rest of all these managers. They haven't won anything. Why am I supposed to? And not a bit. He'll always come back. But I actually think that you always say what you said about a long-term plan. Mourinho's never really a long-term plan. It's a 3-year job, and we're actually his second year is always his best year usually, and we're having a rough time at the moment. And as you say about a turning point, West. If he could have picked the name out of the hat this week, it would be West Brom at home. Has to be, right? If he can't pick West Brom, I don't see where the one's coming from to turn it around. And another thing I look at too, Mourinho, and this is why he might have to change. He will not get another job in England after this. This is his last chance. There's nobody going to take another chance on him. This is it. No, I mean he's been at United, he's been at Chelsea, and it's failed miserably towards the end. And if he comes out of here with not win off and no trophy, really, uninspiring football, player revolts, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to get back into the Premier League. Unless he wants to go down, but I think he's got too much of an ego. I don't think he's going to go down to a lower league, like a Burnley or I can't see him doing that.
I can't see it.
So if this is his last job, I think at a big team or a team that are going to be up there fighting for Champions League and stuff. So I think he really has to have a long, hard think now about what he wants to do.
I don't think you'll see any change. I actually think what you're seeing now is probably going to get worse. His comments are going to get worse. He's going to just revert to type. He can't help himself. That's what I keep coming back to. I can't believe the naivety of such an intelligent man, such a brilliant manager with an amazing CV throughout the years, that he can't see that what he's doing is just having a terrible effect throughout the squad and throughout the club and throughout you as fans.
I think as well, he surrounded himself at Spurs with young coaches that are probably in awe of him and probably look up to him in a way. We look at what he's won, and I think he probably one of them boys. If he sort of had a word with him, he'd probably just side on you as well. So I think they're looking at it. And somebody said to me, who would you want? I'm actually going to make a prediction. I think if Spurs lose on Sunday, that'll be it. I actually think that will be it. I don't think there'll be any way back at all. I think Levy will look at it and go, we're going to have to change it because we've got the Everton game and the Cup game. And if we lose that, the FA Cups, that's a cup we have a good chance on. And then you look at that, you look at the Europa Leagues coming up. I think then they'll have to make a change. They'll have to look at it and go, can we see it getting any better? And I don't think you can. There's no evidence at the moment to suggest that it's going to get better. So I think if we lose on Sunday, that'll be it. People might say it's harsh and it's early, but if you look at the performances since December, really it's not been good enough. And I really wanted them to work. I was desperate for it to work because obviously I want the team to do well, so I was fully behind them. I wasn't at the start when the news was coming out about Mourinho coming in. I obviously wanted Rodgers. I think since then Rodgers has gone on to a new level, to be honest, and there's no doubt in my mind now that Rodgers will be the most sought after manager around. Whether or not they would leave Leicester is another thing. But even if he said, look, I will come in the summer, I would just give it to Ledley Keenan until the end of the season. Obviously, but make it clear to Ledley, no matter what, Brenton's coming in. I think United probably didn't really have a plan when they sacked Mourinho. And they gave it to Solskjaer and then probably thought we could reevaluate in the summer. Solskjaer had a really, really good start and then ultimately gave him the job. I think you need to make it. I think Levy, to be fair, is really. I think Spurs are a well-run club. One of the best well-run. I think you even see when Pochettino was sacked, Mourinho was in the next day. There was no circus around looking for a manager. So there will be a plan there. I have no doubt Levy will be making arrangements now at the minute for another coach if it doesn't go well. And I wouldn't be totally against Ledley King coming in playing the season and just let the players play. I would be prepared to write the season off and go again in the summer if I knew Rodgers was coming in. But how do you see it? If Spurs were to get rid of Mourinho, who do you think would be a good fit?
Aye, Rodgers would be the prime candidate, wouldn't he?
Do you think it's likely that he would come?
It's hard to know. I do think Rodgers is. I'm not saying this about Spurs. I don't know if he'll jump ship at Leicester to go to Spurs. I don't know.
I think it's a match made in heaven. You know, when I look at how young players and how he improves players and his style of play, and he's a very likable character. I think it almost suits Spurs. But as you say, does he see it as a big enough jump?
Possibly not. I don't know. He might see the new stadium, obviously, and then he might see the bigger picture, and that stadium's going to generate loads of cash further down the line, and it could be a real long-term plan for him, as you say, with young players, and he's obviously got a fairly good squad there at the minute. I do see him easily jumping ship for a United, for a Liverpool, for a Chelsea, and I'm not saying I'm saying Chelsea because of the copious amounts of money that
I think he said at Chelsea before he wouldn't go there because they ruin managers. But he does have an affiliation with Chelsea, and that was quite surprising. He said that. I think in terms of Liverpool, right? Would he go back there? I'm not so sure he would.
Can you see him turning Liverpool down if Liverpool came on for Brendan Rodgers? I just can't see it.
I don't know. I'm not sure because one, the manager after Klopp's going to be under severe pressure. It's going to be similar to how Ferguson left Liverpool. I always think that next manager's under a lot of pressure because fans constantly compare. I think it's almost similar to see when after United were so happy to get rid of Mourinho, the next manager was always going to get an easier time. And I think he got that way a lot. I know it's come out now. Some fans are unhappy at times, but I think he got a lot of leeway at the start. Ultimately down the results, but he did play. Any manager is going to play better football than Mourinho. That's the way the United fans looked at it. And I think now, after Pochettino, you see Spurs fans are constantly comparing Mourinho to Poch. The next manager comes on, Spurs is going to be, well, our football was shit under Mourinho and this and that. So I think you're almost a good time to come on the Spurs. I think it'll be a bad time to Liverpool and Man City because of their managers. I don't think it can get much better than it is now at Liverpool or Man City. So that's another one. He might go back to Liverpool at some stage, but I'm not so sure. I won't be so sure they say Liverpool would want Rodgers. They would definitely go for him if they were to lose Klopp, but I'm not so sure it would go now. I don't know. How do you see it?
I know what you mean, and it's all hypothetical. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp could be there for the next 10 years, for God's sake. But I mean, what I'm saying is, Liverpool and the United and City and Chelsea, I think have a better chance of prizing Rodgers away from Leicester than what Spurs do. Yeah, and I think that's just because of
their status. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I think it's because of where they are at the minute. I think it's also because of the money they have to spend or they're spending at this moment in time, and it gives them a better chance. What you're saying about Rodgers, if them clubs come in for a certain type of manager, like with the status that Brendan Rodgers has, these managers see it as a risk, but I don't think they can turn it down. I just don't think any manager can turn that type, because it mightn't come around again. It's like Frank Lampard was offered a Chelsea job. He probably knew this is a massive, massive risk. If this doesn't work out for me in a year, I'm out of there, and my reputation's taking a huge hit. But you have to accept.
Yeah, I think Rodgers has proved himself, but now at Leicester, I think he's done a really, really good job, and I don't think there's as much. There's no doubt he used Leicester as a stepping stone. That's why he jumped ship at Celtic to Leicester, because he knew it's probably the best he could have got at the time. He wasn't going to get a top six club, so he could use Leicester as a stepping stone. And as you say, there's obviously a bigger agenda at work. He's obviously looking for a big job.
Aye.
But But I think the Liverpool thing, they really did treat him like shit towards the end. Like, you know, what I mean, he done a lot for them, and he almost put the foundations in there for Klopp. I'm just not so sure he would go back there. He might, you never know. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but I'm just not so sure he would jump at it. Maybe I think United would be one he might look at, but
would Spurs look in the Premier League, or would they go?
for me, it has
What
to
do
be
you
a Premier
think?
League experience. People say to me about Allegri. I
Uh,
wouldn't. He's been out of work a long time now, and I think he's very similar in terms of his defensive organisation. Right, the football might be better than it was on, but I don't think I don't want to see an hour tactician. I want to see somebody that's got Premier League experience. Now the other one I looked at was Hasenhüttl at Southampton, but then I've had question marks about him before, and then you look at the R9 as well. We're gonna chat about that in a wee bit, but he's had a lot of heavy beatings at Southampton. There's been a couple of 9-0s. I think there's been a 7-1 or something, or a couple of 5-6s. There's been a lot of heavy defeats there, and it just sort of, you know, when things are going wrong there doesn't seem any answer to try and sort it out. So, but then you look at our games, we're against Liverpool, where he's done a real job on a team. So don't doubt he's a good manager, but I think there's a lot more risk attached to him than a Brendan Rodgers.
I really like Hasenhüttl. I think his teams play super football. I think he has a great way about him as well. He's
I
a
know he
likable
is,
character.
but see when he was crying after the Liverpool game and stuff, that there sort of, I was thinking, all right, it means a lot then, but I was thinking, you know what, he needs to be a bit.
It was perp.
It's, you know, come on, like it's a league game against Liverpool. It's not a cup final.
Perp.
It's not, you know what I mean. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, is that the kind of manager that's ready for Spurs? That's ready to make that step up? I'm not so sure. I think when Pochettino came in, there was a few question marks, but he just looked like he had that class about him. And he looked at his results. He went to Liverpool and won. He went to Old Trafford and won. He had that the players bought into him, and I thought that was very, very inspiring and someone that I looked at and I thought, you know what, this could really, really go well. And obviously it did for me. If anyone asked me, I still see this as a successful period, even without the trophies. I don't think he could have done much more. And as you say, sometimes when it gets to a semi-final and a final, that's where players have to step up too. I think that sometimes that fans at United are quick to jump on Ollie, but sometimes the players have to take a better responsibility as well. You know what I mean? A manager shouldn't have to get you up for a semi-final or a final. Do you know what I mean? So, no.
What about the Nagelsmann boy?
Again, as I said, ideally I would want Premier League experience, but again, you're taking another chance on him based on that. Obviously, he's done well in Germany, but he's a young manager coming into England. I think, to be honest, I think Spurs. Levy said in the documentary that it was only Jose he was looking at. There were strong rumours that Nagelsmann was an hour boy they considered, but Nagelsmann didn't feel he was ready. There's a lot of rumours coming out of Germany that he wants to come in the summer to England. And again, he's the type of manager that Levy likes, young, good brand of football, somebody young they can control as well. I think with Levy and Mourinho, it was almost like the first manager he probably thought he couldn't control in a way, but he almost seemed to have that control over Pochettino and AVB if you go back. So I think it's a summer profile, but again, you're taking a big risk.
Do you know who I think's a very, very good manager? He's in the Premier League, and I'll give you 3 guesses, and you won't get it.
Dean Smith. I was going to say Nuno. Do you think Nuno?
I love him as well, by the way.
I think he's had a really tough time this year. Bielsa, is that the other one? You think I don't know?
No, I love him as well too. But I mean, I'm not saying Spurs should go after him, but I do think he should be given a chance somewhere. Right. Sean Dyche.
Big step up. Big step. I think in terms of his organisation, again, brilliant coach.
I think an unbelievable.
Under the circumstances of Burnley, he's done a fantastic job. Very little funds. Even they always seem to have a very poor first half of the season, but they always seem to turn it around in that second half. You look at that Liverpool performance last week. How organised they were. No, they hardly conceded a chance against Liverpool at Anfield. You know, so again, he will get his chance somewhere. I'm sure of it, but I don't think Spurs will be looking at him just because of the style of play.
I think. Well, see, I'm a wild man about that as well. I think. See, there's a certain manager labelled with a style of play, but I think nobody can say that that's Sean Dyche's style of play. I think Sean Dyche has adapted to Burnley. Maybe I'm wrong.
I
Maybe
know what you mean.
maybe that maybe
Maybe with
that's
better
his.
players, he would play a different way.
Well, and that's a sign of a super coach, in my opinion.
He's been linked
Sean
before with
Dyche.
Everton a few times, hasn't he? But Everton have seemed to look for a bit more. I think Everton sort of think themselves that they're a big club and they want the best. And I sort of think they turned their nose up at him a few times.
Possibly.
But the one thing I would say about Dyche, right, is it wouldn't be an appointment to excite me. I think with Rodgers, I would be buzzing. I think with Nagelsmann, I would be very reserved, but I would be the part of me would go, do you know what? This could work in a way.
Yeah.
Allegri, I would be totally against. I know he's won trophies, but I would be totally against Allegri. Totally against him. I don't even think he'd want the Spurs job. I think he's waiting for a really top club. So I think Arsenal went after him before and he said no. So I think he's looking for a really top club. But I think the longer you're out of the game too, it works against you with Allegri. You can almost be forgotten about. So for me, I would go Rodgers would be my number one, and then there's no Hasenhüttl would be on the short list, but I would be cautious about him. And possibly if you want, I would go Nagelsmann would be the other one, but for me, Rodgers has to be first. I think any of them other two I will support and I get behind them. I go, you know what? There's because you look at the way Southampton press, and they can do real jobs on teams. If you think of where Southampton were when he came in, they were an absolute mess. Do you know what I mean? So now he's done a really good job at Southampton, but it's where he can make that step up. I'm not sure he's got the same level of class as Pochettino. I think with Pochettino there was a lot more there. I'm just not sure. I think Hasenhüttl's like a bit more to prove. I don't know what you think about
that. It remains to be seen with these and again in Dyche whether they can always do it at a big club and whether they can adapt or not. I would love to see boys given a chance with a few pound behind them and see if they can sort of prove their coaching ability with different styles and different tactics and obviously more pressure. It remains to be seen, but I love seeing underdogs like that given a chance.
I agree. And do you know another thing, Colin, too? This is something I talked about in the last I think it was a couple of podcasts, but I'm not sure who it was, but we were talking about young managers being fast tracked, like Ollie. Might have been actually you, Ollie, Frank, and if you look at Steven Gerrard at Rangers, even Arteta at Arsenal, Sean Dyche is more qualified. You know what I mean? He's more experienced, but he's not really been given a chance. So, as you say,
not fashionable enough, Gary.
Not fashionable. People want that young. Oh, he's worked with Pep. Let's go and get him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's
Mikel Arteta.
Exactly. So we're going to move on, but going to do a wee bit of title talk here. Obviously, we've been talking about a lot of these teams about the last few weeks. Just starting sort of chronological order from this week's games. So if you go back to Tuesday night, United. So a wee bit of pressure going into the game against Southampton. I actually said to Christie, I thought you were playing Southampton at a good time. They looked a bit tired, and they look like they're prioritising the cups, the FA Cup. I think they're in the 5th round against Wolves next week, and Wolves haven't been in the best of form. I think they'll go there and think they've got a good chance to get into the quarterfinal if they won that. So, and they're in a safe enough league position. I don't really think they've got the squad to challenge for top 6. So, it's probably makes sense. And you see a lot of managers turning their nose up at the FA Cup and go, let's focus. So I think he's prioritising that. And there's been a few injuries to the squad. And then obviously you start the game and he brings the young striker in after a minute. He makes an absolutely awful tackle. But again, I think that's just a moment of madness. The occasion's got to him. And he's probably over eager. As you know, almost when you get a chance, if you're a young boy, you're 16 and you get called up to it's the Maiden City first team. And you just want to make that impression and you just go overboard. I think that's the emotion got to him. I don't think he's that type of player. So it's almost like a godsend for United. But not playing against 10 men can be difficult at times because it can almost make a team a lot more defensive and compact. But as I said previously, we Hasenhüttl, there's things about him that maybe put me off, and the team just completely folded. United did play well, but I think Southampton contributed a lot to it. How did you see the game?
More or less, you nailed it, Gary. See, before the game, I'd say a few people, we will never ever get a better opportunity to play Southampton. They had no Kyle Walker-Peters, no
Bertrand didn't play.
Bertrand, Romeo. There was somebody else.
They looked a wee bit soft over the last few games.
Walcott, and they weren't in the greatest of run. And I says, we will never, ever get a better opportunity. And we, by the way, although, yes, they went down to 10 men after a minute or so, we see that first, we were playing some great stuff that first 10 minutes before the first goal.
I thought you were going to say that first 30 seconds.
that first 10 minutes or so before we scored, or first 15 minutes, I kept saying to myself,
The first goal was real quality.
but we were moving them about, and we were playing at a good pace, and that's what you have to do against 10 men, just keep moving the ball quickly. And I thought, just get this first goal, and then obviously the floodgates open. Southampton contributed to it, there's no doubt about that. But we were ruthless. I normally play it down. I'm not going to take anything away from United in this one. They were absolutely brilliant, United, and they were a joy to watch against what could have been a tough game when teams put 10 men behind the ball, but United just ruthlessly put them away, and it was great to see. Now, I wanted United to go on and with that same 11 come out at half time, or the second half of that same 11. Now, they made a couple of subs, and I was raging. They brought on Martial for Cavani. Now, Cavani got hurt, obviously, and they brought on Donny van de Beek. But I just wanted United to rack up the goals. And then, obviously, the first 15 minutes of the second half was poor. United were poor, And then they got that fifth, I think it was. And then the floodgates opened again.
Yeah.
But the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of the second half was poor from United. It was as if they were settling for the 4-0.
Obviously, I had you on here last month before the Burnley game. I was just leading up that Liverpool game. So how do you see the last sort of month of results? Do you think there's been missed opportunities in there? Do you think there's been a lack of winning mentality at times? They try and maybe be a bit braver? Or do you think them games away at Arsenal and United, or away at Arsenal and Liverpool, where you got a draw, was possibly the right way to approach it, and then they had the chances, they won the game as well? How do you see it?
I see it exactly like that. United are at the stage where, and we spoke about this the last time as well, United are not at the stage where they can go toe-to-toe, I don't think, with Liverpool. I know Liverpool had injuries and all in that game.
Would you say that, I think Mourinho was making this comparison back in November, or whatever it was, that if you look at Liverpool and Man City, they're the two favourites, they won the Grand National, and you're just a wee pony?
No, I'm not ruling us out completely. I do think, Liverpool's faltered now again, but Man City's going to be hard to stop. That we could be sitting here talking about another 4 points for United in them two games against Arsenal and Liverpool.
Do you think the one real slip was a Sheffield United blip? That was the one real disappointment on there.
Gary, it was terrible. Oh, I was so angry after that game. Probably the way you were last night after the Chelsea Spurs.
Not really. No, I was deflated last night. I've almost like I threw the towel on before the game. Anyway, I'm feeling like you were 2 years ago, where I'm just expecting it anyway. So it doesn't really. I'm just deflated. I'm not even angry anymore. To be honest, I'm just. I think when you're in a title challenge, I can relate to that, because I mind games where under Poch, where Spurs were in great form, and then great chance. They are two teams might have harder games, and we would have be at home or away to a team that's in the bottom three and go and drop 2 points or get bit. Then you'd be fuming, because you think back, you'd be like, oh, what a chance. You get yourself built up for the game, and if we won the night, you're almost sort of looking at the table before the game starts, adding yourself 3 points on, and you're thinking, oh, we're in a great position, and then that there sucker punch. That's worse than, trust me, that's worse than what I'm feeling now. When you're on that there run and you think you've got a chance, that's almost worse.
I know what you're saying. It's just the performance against Sheffield United was horrible. I just couldn't fathom it. I thought there was no excuse for it. There was no excuse for that serious lack of intensity, and especially the forward players. I hate criticizing players, but the performance and the intensity from Martial and Rashford was awful. There was no excuse.
They just looked at Sheffield as they would just go out and they would have won easy and stuff.
That's the only way to analyse it, because there was so much at stake for that game to go top of league, and I don't know, you get these games where things don't go right, but I don't think there's any excuse for the lack of real desire and intensity, and I seen it in that game. I was so angry with it, and a perfect sort of example of it was when Harry Maguire scored. I was motionless when Harry Maguire scored. I mean, I was actually thinking, see if United go on and won this game in the last 10 minutes to score and won 2-1 before they got their second goal. If United go on and won 2-1, I'd actually preempted that I wasn't going to even break into a smile or celebrate. That's how bad we were.
Yeah,
it was so bad, and I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why we were that bad. I know we haven't been putting on 90-minute performances throughout games, and we were brilliant. I know we've played in moments, but we just didn't even play in one moment in that game. It was terrible.
Obviously,
but
big game.
I'm over it now. Sometimes you do have them games, sometimes you do, but great reaction against Southampton. And as I says to you, I've says to loads of people, see the way United are, one game at a time. I agree
100%. That's the way to look at it. And you almost have to get away from that, looking at the table before the game, imagining we've got an easy game here. Let's add 3 points on, and hopefully our teams draw. It just doesn't work like that. But obviously, moving on to Wednesday, Burnley played Man City at 6 o'clock. I actually said on the podcast with Christie, I think it's going to be tighter than people think. Burnley can be quite stubborn. And to their credit, Man City seem to be on that habit of scoring early. And see, when Man City starts scoring early in games, you almost start to think it's looking like it's going to be relentless from them now moving forward. They're putting games to bed quite early. And the one thing I would say about them, even when they go 1-0 up now, they look so solid at the back. They really have got all the makings there of a title winning team. They've got a big test at the weekend coming up. But I think it's Man City. They've won their last 11 in all competitions. I think it might be 9 wins in the league in a row. And that's as good as any run this year. So obviously a big test at the weekend, but do you sort of sense that they're going to be the team we have to stop?
Nobody can argue with that, Gary. They obviously they've done it before, and then as you says, the back four has just made them even more solid. It was interesting to see the back four they played the other night. They played obviously 3 boys: Laporte, Stones, and Diaz with Cancelo.
Quality player, that Cancelo.
He's top drawer, and then they've obviously back up there.
And they've De Bruyne's missing at the moment too, and everything. They no strike. Well, I know Jesus is back, but see what I look at it, right? I don't know if you've seen it.
Without a number 9 this last.
I actually say this to Christie though. I still think they'll have a dip at some stage. I don't think it'll be a big dip, but I still think they could possibly lose maybe two games between now and the end of the season. 2, maybe 3 at a push. And it'll be about if they'll actually United and Liverpool are within touching distance, they be there. I don't think they can afford to be more than 4 or 5 points behind. I think if it gets to 6 or 7, that means if they already have their dip, United and Liverpool will have to win every game, which I don't think they can do. So I think United can possibly afford 1 or 2 more slips between now and the end of the season if they're going to win it. I still think City could possibly drop a few points, but you'll be looking at it this weekend as one of them chances for them to go and have a blip.
I know it's boring to say. I'm not even looking at a title winning team at the minute with United. I'm over the moon that United's up around first and second position.
I think if you get the last 6 games, then you'll start looking at City's results if you're on way a chance. But
exactly. City are, what is it? They have 2 games in hand at the minute. So if they win them 2, they'll go 6 points clear. But I'm hoping they'll drop points at the weekend. Liverpool might do something then make it a wee bit more interesting.
They've got Liverpool, Spurs, and Arsenal this month. So that obviously on paper, difficult games. But Liverpool, obviously, we're going to have them out having a bit of a sticky spell. Spurs are in poor form, and Arsenal. Look, they had a bit of a good run there, but it's obviously came down the other night. But Liverpool moving on to 8 o'clock. I think a lot of people expect Liverpool to go and win this game, especially with a big game at the weekend. And I thought Brighton having their wee one against Spurs, it might have been a difficult game for them. But I actually said, in the prediction, I said it'll be a lot tighter than people think. Brighton are a lot better than people think they are. I think if you look at their stats before they pulled them up before the Spurs game, every stat they're sitting around mid-table, apart from chance conversion, they're bottom of the league. So they actually create chances, but they struggle to score them. And I think Graham Potter's an hour boy. I forgot about him. He would be an hour boy I would seriously consider. I think he's done a really, really good job at Brighton. And he done well in Sweden with Ostersons, I think it was. He'd be an hour boy I wouldn't mind coming on at Spurs. And again, an hour boy that fits the profile. And I think he speaks well. And he just looks very intelligent as well. I would actually go for him before I go for Hasenhüttl. I actually forgot about him. What might they say about him?
seems as if he's a good coach. They play football the right way, don't they? Brighton, and he's signed he's made some astute signings as well. Some boys that you've never heard of.
Getting on the Liverpool, right? I actually said this a few weeks ago. Don't know if you've seen this on the pod. I said the Liverpool reminds you of Man City last year, where they would have great games where they would smash teams. Like I think City won 8-0 last year, and they won 3 or 4-0 a few games, but then they would be 1, 2, or 3. And then you think, oh, they're going to go on a run now, and then crash, boom, they would lose a game against a team where you wouldn't expect them to lose. So do you almost think that that's going to be the way forward this season for Liverpool, no matter, it just doesn't look like they're going to be able to string 5 or 6 results together? Do you sort of think that because of the amount of injuries they've had, the constant changing of the team, and there is something there as well that's missing, because they still had enough to beat Brighton, but they look to be missing a creative spark. And if Salah's not at it, I know Mane was injured the other night, but if Salah's not at it, there's a real lack of goals. So do you sense it's all of that mixed together?
Possibly. I don't think that. See, if I was a Liverpool fan, I don't think I'd be worrying quite yet. They might not win the league this year. They've had their injuries. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I genuinely think the main reason for the inconsistency is that, and we spoke about this before, is that stability in midfield, especially Fabinho. Now, who knows when these centre halves that they sign come in and do well? If they might do well. Ben Davies, isn't it? And this.
I think the young lad's probably not going to see too much of him. I think he'll be more of a future sign. The boy Quebec, there's going to be a bit of pressure on him to come in. It'll be interesting to see if he throws him on this weekend against Man City. But we'll have to. Do
you think Fabinho's there for the rest of the season then, centre half?
I think so. Well, Matip's out for the rest of the season, so I think
they might play this Ben Davies along with a Phillips or this young lad that they signed, and see if they do and they turn out okay, because they're specialised centre halves, like, and then you can get Fabinho back in the middle.
I think regardless, Colin, I think Sunday they have to win, or at least not. If they lose, I think they're too far behind. They come back and do it. So it'll be interesting to see what Klopp does. Does he throw the boy in that he signed, or does he? I don't think he will. I think he'll go his tried and trusted. I think you'll see Fabinho on there with Phillips, because he's done quite well since he come on. And then if if the title does whittle away a bit, and they're in a decent position in the top 4, and they're not going to fall out of the top 4, you might see him, change it about a bit and maybe just experiment for next year. You might see something like that, but I'd be surprised if he changed it, because if you're a defender coming in, they'll ask him, you want to come on? He's a Man City, you know what I mean? So
it'll be interesting. And Sunday, I remember reading something there yesterday. I think it was Jamie Carragher says he reckons Mane will be back. He reckons Henderson will be in round midfield again, and he reckons Fabinho will play with probably Davis, maybe centre half. That's what he reckons. Right. One of them.
Well, you have to take Chiara face value. He must have a wee bit of. But then why would he be putting?
He reckons Mane will be back. He reckons Liverpool will give him all they want on Sunday.
I think Mane's key to have him, because Mane gives them, even though he doesn't score a lot of goals this season, still strikes fear in the players. I think you see me Brighton the other night. They knew they just keep Salah quiet, and there was a good chance they would be able to keep Liverpool quiet. And I think that's an area that they'll be looking at this summer. I don't think the backup for them players is good enough. And I think with Firmino not really scoring goals, they're really short in goals up there. If Mane isn't had the best season in terms of his goal return, the burdens are leaping on Salah. So they're going to have to look at strength in that area in the summer. Salah's an R1 where he's got 2 years in his contract. If he doesn't sign, what are they going to do there? So there's a few questions there for Klopp. And I actually want to speak about this when I was chatting about Mourinho. I forgot about it, but do you know when teams are going through tough times, and even when you're playing well, you've had periods of success like Liverpool and Man City, there's no doubt about last year that now with Liverpool are having problems. You go back to Klopp's first season, they had a few problems, a few second spells. Even in his second season, you look at Guardiola last season, there was a lot of question marks. Was he going to sign and stay on? This year, the way they started the season, there was question marks. But because of the way they play and the way that you almost feel that they'll eventually get out of it. And that's that thing I don't see with Mourinho, is there's no real evidence to suggest they're going to get out of it. And even with Pochettino, I still thought the way right it out until the end of the season, things might change. So I think that's the one thing that fans can relate to. Even Liverpool fans now, when they're struggling, they'll still say, you know what, well, you see the game against West Ham where they were brilliant. It's just that eventually it'll turn around. It might not be the next year, but there's no doubt Klopp's the best man to take us forward. There's nobody even
Aye.
debating that. So that's something the fans want to see, and I don't see that with Spurs.
I know. I think it's just because, on one side, it's the credit that Klopp has built up over the past maybe couple of years, and then
Yes,
on the other side, you're seeing a trend that's happening with Mourinho that's happened over the past couple of years, and
exactly.
you can't see light at the end of the tunnel.
No,
Whereas you
and
think Klopp's hitting a blip now. He's done well over the past couple of years. He's going to turn this round, surely.
the last thing what they sort of mentioned in this title talk is I really think a bit unfair to not mention them. They may not win it, but they've done really well this year's Leicester. How do you see their chances, and do you think they'll just be really happy to get top four?
They'll be delighted to get top four. I
Especially
think.
after how it ended last year, where they were in the top four for so long until the last day of the season. And
I remember Sandy, one of the wee boys' friends, follower says, I think it was halfway through the season, Leicester were flying, and I says to him, I don't see them lasting a pace. I think they're playing above their station. And I remember United were, I think, gathering a wee bit of momentum. I can't remember exactly when it was throughout the season, but I know United were something like 9 points, 8 or 9 points behind them, but I had them in my sights. I thought we can catch them because I don't think.
Leicester had a really, really bad restart with 9 games. They had a really, really bad United were the best team on there. But as you say, they did pick up a bit of ground in February and stuff as well. And I think when Fernandes come on, United really changed as a team. But see, with Leicester, I don't think the same thing will happen last year. I think their squad was really stretched. I think they've got a lot more about them this year. I think they've coped with injuries a lot better. I think Ndidi's been out. Vardy's obviously out at the minute and they're coping. Pereira's been out the right back. James Justin, they've pulled him out of somewhere. He looks a real top player. Castagne's coming from Anderlecht. That's another thing with Leicester. And you could say Rodgers as well is involved in it, but even go back to the previous match, the recruitment policy at Leicester is really, really impressive. They seem to get it. And I can't think of too many bad signings they've made. You look at the lad Fofana's come on as well. Everyone was chatting about Saliba. He was his partner at St. Etienne. He went to Arsenal. Not really happened for Saliba. Fofana went under the radar. Fofana's been probably one of the best centre halves in the league. You look at Sionchi last year. Tielemans, they've really got their Madison, their recruitment's been fantastic over the last few years.
Maybe it's just because it's Leicester. I don't see them. I see Chelsea finishing ahead of them. Would you believe that?
I was going to say, my next question was going to be, do you see the top four staying the way it is now? Them 4 teams, but do you actually think Chelsea might get on?
I think it'll be hard to look beyond City, Liverpool, United, and Chelsea. I don't know. Maybe I'm fixated on because Leicester, Chelsea have been there over the past number of years.
But hey, moving on. The last topic on my chat before we get on to the predictions for this week, but it obviously dominated the controversy this weekend. It's something that's come up on the show before. And I think it's just the right time to bring it up again because there's been so much over the last sort of 2 weeks on it's VAR. And not so much just VAR. I think that's something people can get caught up on the headlines. VAR is just technology. It's not so much the technology, it's the standard of refereeing over the last few weeks. And the thing I look at it is there no common sense in football anymore? That was my sort of take on it because let's go back a few weeks, right? Let's go back to the start of the season. You look at the handball rule. If it hit your hand at all, it was a penalty. And then they changed that obviously because there's some really, really awful decisions. And I'd seen players just kicking the ball players for penalties. And then you look at the offside one with Man City and Villa a few weeks ago, and everybody knows it's offside. But because of some robot making a rule, it's not offside. And then you look at Tuesday night, the Wolves game and the United game where there was real incompetency, really, really poor. Where obviously you've had a look at the instance before we come on, but David Luiz is running back, and he's made a few mistakes before where he's hacked somebody down, and he's been sent off. So as you say, I think you made this off camera to me. I think he's made a judgment call where I'm going to try, even if he scores, I'm going to let him go. And what's happened is he's pulling up, his knees hit the back foot, the stud of the attacker, William Jose, and it's took him down. Penalty and red card, right? And seeing live play, I can have a bit of sympathy. I can look, you know what, it looked a foul. But then you get the benefits of the VAR where they go over and have a look, and they ended up giving him a red card as well. And then you fast forward 2 hours, United against Southampton, where you have a defender that's trying to get out of the way. Martial's actually going down before he's been touched. and then penalties been given. And this is one I found really interesting because Mike Dean's been told to go over and look at the monitor, and I'm not. I actually think if you look at it, it's not even a penalty. He's looked at it for a few minutes. He's looked at it for quite a long time, and then he touches his ear, and it's as if someone said to him, "Well, we've had a bit of a mare 2 years ago here. You're going to have to send him off because there's going to be an outroar if you don't send him off." And I think Mike Dean's that arrogant. He wouldn't even go, "Do you know what? I've made a mistake here. That's not a penalty." I think, boom, red card and penalty. And even Martial's come out after it and said it's not a penalty. I'm not doing a lot of talking here, but just to finish it off.
No,
They have even more controversy yesterday where they've rescinded the Southampton red card, but not rescinded the Arsenal red card. And today it's like Peter Walton on BT Sport saying that they're different. But how are they different? He said that your man made an attempt for the ball, and the other boy didn't make that attempt for the ball. The one at Southampton, he got nowhere near the ball. He didn't even touch him. And then the
absolutely
one
crazy.
he's actually trying to get out of the way. He's trying not to fight him.
Who knows where we're all at the minute with rules and with
nobody knows the rules anymore.
It's humble, and even to go back to that one, first of all, the Tyrone Mings.
Yeah.
Apparently, did he not come out afterwards and say he didn't know or he didn't know the rules or something? That's unbelievable. Like, it's not. It's probably is unbelievable for him not to know the rules, but you can't blame him because they've changed that much.
Like Kevin De Bruyne come out with something similar earlier in the season. He didn't know what the rules were. I think it was after the Spurs game when they had that handball thing. He said, "I don't know the rules anymore. They keep changing it every week." He said, "No doubt they'll be something next week changing." So the players aren't familiar. But what I look at, Colin, right, is the common sense. You look back at the replays. You only need 1 or 2 replays to know that was offside. Somebody just needs to say, "Look, you know what? That's offside." But they're obsessed with these wee rules. And I always say, robots and accountants are running football now. No, it's almost like, see these referees too. We were saying they want to be the star of the show. Mike Dean, as you said before, the way he puts yellow cards and red cards out, the way he points to the spot, the dancing, it's all about him, the Mike Dean show. And then another thing as well I looked at was everybody knows the names of referees now. See, years ago they made a new Mike Reddy's name, obviously because everyone knew he was controversial. But every single referee now, every referee's got in the Premier League, everyone knows who they are. You go to American football, nobody knows who the referees are. You go to rugby, you don't know who the referees are. See, in a rugby game, you can hear everything that's being said, and the officials hear. That's another thing too. Why can we not get them mic'd up? And then another thing I said to you was, see, if we're going to have VAR, we're going to have to use it properly. It's actually getting worse. They're misusing the technology. And what I was saying to you was, all these referees are friends, and they're all. And I understand it's common. Colin, see if something happened next weekend. Somebody said to me, somebody asked me, where was Colin between? I'd say, I would obviously try and stick up for you. It's common, right? And I think a lot of people can relate to that. But you're in a professional industry. I think something they're going to have to look at now is we've got foreign players, we've got foreign managers. Why can we not have foreign referees coming, or even have a foreign referee? Even if there's only a few of them, have them sit in the VAR room. See if you've got 3 or 4 games on the same day. Even have maybe a referee do 2 games and the other referee do another 2 games, and then do something to try and stop because there's been levels of corruption in there. There is a bit of corruption in there in terms of, I don't think they're doing it intentionally, but what's happening is they're sticking up for their mates, and their mates are making mistakes, and then he's like, you know what, if you sort me out this week, I'll sort him out the next week. Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult. If John Moss is helping out Mike Dean, if it's the next week that Mike Dean's in a situation where he can help out John Moss, he's thinking, well, he sorted me out last week, I'm going to try and sort him out now. And that's the way it's going.
And you mentioned that too off camera as well. And isn't it BT, your man Peter Walton, they go and ask him after a decision, and you just know before they ask him.
He's unhappy asking him. And do you know what he always says? Do you know if it's not? Do you know if it's a clear not? No, if it's like it's one of them ones where everybody knows the referee's got it wrong, he'll go, well, it's not clear and obvious, and not this is what he says. It's not clear and obvious enough for the VAR to overturn his decision, but everybody else can see it's obvious. So there really is.
On that Martial one, I just like, first of all, he made the decision, and then you seen the replay and you went, oh my God, this is never a penalty. So then we're waiting, right? And Mike Dean's loving this drama here. It's right up his street.
Oh, he loves it.
And then he was told to go over and look at the camera, and then you just seen the slow walk over. The camera's on me here. I'm loving it. So, and then I stand and he's chatting away and looking at the TV screen. And
I
then
honestly
I
thought,
just
common sense would tell you, I honestly thought he got sent over to that monitor. You've made a mistake here. It's not a penalty. Go and have a look at it.
uh,
And when he
uh,
come back and went like, all right, see
oh
common sense, I was thinking, and then he goes penalty and red card. Oh my God,
oh
he's got an absolute mare.
I honestly couldn't believe it as well. I was over Dollar Sofa and I was looking over. I didn't believe it. I've just seen it. I really do not, because Martial, as I said to you, Martial more or less preempted the touch from Bednarek, and you just seen him, his whole body just flopping down, and then Bednarek obviously seen him about the dive and just
And then
pulled
Martial
away.
actually come out after it and said it's not a penalty. It was never a penalty. And that makes it even more silly. And then the fact they've rescinded one and not rescinded the other. Now, Peter Walton said that, see if David Luiz had just wiped them out, it'd have got a yellow card and penalty.
And that's
The man
incredible.
on BT Sport, he said, Peter, he's actually trying to get out of the way. He goes, no, he's caught him. He goes, he's tripped him. He's tripped him up. And everybody could see that he was trying to get, he actually does this with his hands. They try and, because he's slowed up, he's actually, I think David Luiz is thinking, you know what, I've let this team down a few times in the last year. Arteta's probably, on his last sort of straw with him. He's got sent off a few times where he's hacked somebody down and get, red card or give away a penalty. He's like, you know what, I can't take this one. They trust the goalkeeper. Hope he saves it, or else it's 1-1. And at least we're still, because I think Arsenal were the better team in that game by a million miles.
Exactly.
Even at 1-1, worst case scenario, that goal goes in. Still would have fancied Arsenal in the second half. They come out and won the game. So,
and that's what he done. He was taking his medicine. He says, right, I've let him get through here. I'm letting him score, or he's going down. He's getting a penalty or whatever, and hopefully we'll get back in the game. I'm staying on the pitch. We still got 11 on the pitch, and look what happened. A double whammy.
The fact that Peter Walton was trying to justify it was just, I just couldn't get my head around it. And as you say, he's an ex-referee. He's probably got friends that are still refereeing. He's not going to say on live TV that he's got it wrong. And
exactly.
Referees, we're talking about players being punished for bad performances and managers being sacked for poor runs of form. Referees every week, time and time again, get away with it. How many mistakes has Mike Dean made in the last couple of years? He's still considered a professional referee. And this is the thing as well. I was listening to the AFTV podcast last night, and England are only one of two nations where the referees are professional. The other leagues, they're semi-professional, so they don't get as much money, and they actually have to work somewhere else. They make a living, but they're still better than the referees we have. And Mike Reddy's been in this sort of job now a long, long time, and the officiating every season seems to be getting worse. Surely now he needs to be looked at to be being replaced, because I think somebody said before, he's the most arrogant man you'll ever meet. He's
I've heard that mentioned as well.
And you think about Mike Reddy when he was referee himself, he was never a favourite. There wasn't a lot of teams that liked him, so there is something that needs to be looked at going forward, isn't it?
But it won't be. It won't be.
There's too much arrogance in a way.
And you never hear them coming out, and they don't have to come out and justify their. It's because if they do, I suppose then fans will build up an opinion and of them that they've made a mistake. I think if referees came out and spoke the way managers speak after the game and went, "Sorry, here, hold on, I've made a mistake," and it's only natural, it's human. Everybody makes mistakes. Then you would get far more respect from fans and from managers. And by the way, sorry, what about Solskjaer coming out and saying the other day that the Sheffield United decisions,
two decisions the exact same, and they got them wrong. You know what I mean? Both the same and different decisions. That's an hour one. And then see as well. I was saying, Robbie made a fantastic point last night in the FTV podcast. He said that see if a police officer dies, right? You see his team, they don't investigate the murder because there's a conflict of interest. They bring in an independent team, they investigate it, for example, right? So when there's a VAR, surely having a foreign official, we know affiliation to them referees in England would work, because he's under no way going to try and help that referee out, be trying to protect him. He's going to get the right decision. And I think that's a thing that can be looked at, surely. And this is supposed to be the best league in the world, but the officiating's it's destroying it, to be honest. And then people
it's a great idea.
Exactly, and I think it will be brilliant. Again, but I think there's too much arrogance in the FA and I think it's the PGMO, I can't mind what you call them, but they won't change it. And I think they'll say, oh, well, this is the kind of thing that happens. But I think fans can understand a couple of years ago when referees made mistakes, but the fact that they're getting the benefit of technology now, it's worse. and it's creating that animosity between fans and players, but and referees. So I just don't know where we're at the minute, Colin. It's supposed to be. We're told at the start of the season it's getting better. That the referees were going to look at the monitors instead of. Remember last year they didn't look at the monitors. I actually think it's got worse this year. I don't know what they're going to do next year. It just seems like we're on a downward spiral, and I'm just not sure how we're going to get out of it. But moving on to this week's predictions, Colin. Start off tomorrow. I think it's a good game to start. Villa, Arsenal, 12:30. How do you see that going?
Villa, Arsenal. Ooh.
Arsenal are going to be without Leno, so I think they're going to have to play that rookie goalkeeper who's been very, very shaky this season. So
but
that could.
Villa's a joy to watch at times. Arsenal are a bit more solid in recent times.
West Ham's done a real job in Villa, alright, didn't they? The counter attack, and that could be the way Arsenal might go about it.
That's what I was thinking. They're a bit more solid in recent times. Arsenal, I think I'll go 1-1.
Right. I was thinking a draw myself, but I think the keeper's going to at least make at least one mistake here. Games I've seen him, he's made a mistake in every single game. I think against Man City and Gunnarsson. I think in the quarter-final against Man City, he might have made 3 that led to goals. So his confidence is going to be really shook as well. And I think and the fact as well that the Villa goalkeeper was actually Arsenal's second keeper last year, and this is going to add more pressure. But I think Villa, via a goalkeeping error, might get the 3 points here. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Villa 1. Burnley against Brighton, absolute classic for a Saturday afternoon. How do you see that going?
1-0 Burnley.
I'm going to go for a 0-0. I think it's going to be a drab watch. I think Brighton will probably take the initiative. Burnley might be solid, and you say they might end up punching a goal from a corner, but I like to see Brighton do well, so I'm going to go for a draw. Newcastle against Southampton's also at 3 o'clock. Peter Walton will be in the BT Sports studio no doubt for this one. How do you see that going?
Newcastle have a few players back from injury as well.
I think Newcastle, this is a good opportunity, with Southampton's form.
I'll go 2-1 Newcastle.
I'm going to go the same. I think it's a good opportunity for Newcastle. They get not only a bit Everton a few weeks ago, but they haven't won at home for a while. Southampton, the man's on a really sticky spell, and I think that Wolves game on Tuesday night in the cup, they're going to rest players. So I think they're going to. You might see a weekend Southampton team, and Newcastle get the job done 2-1. Fulham against West Ham. I think at the minute Fulham are really unfortunate. They've had a few draws, but the teams above them have started winning, like Brighton and Newcastle. It's looking the bottom 3 at the minute's well adrift from the rest of them from 17th. So Fulham really need to start winning games. But West Ham at the minute, they have a real knack for. Moyes has really built his reputation hugely at West Ham. That result the other night. Lingard coming in, he's chomping on the butt. And I think you might see a similar setup. No, I was working here, but I think you might see a similar setup here where West Ham are going to let Fulham have the ball and maybe try and counter attack. So how do you see it going?
I think possession wise there might be a split there possession around 50-50. I don't see any of them dominating possession, but I watched it the other night. Lingard was, apart from his 2 goals, he was absolutely outstanding. I couldn't believe it.
Souček seems like a real steal as well, where they pulled him with it. He's a real animal.
By the way, too, he's not just an aerial threat.
That finish was real quality.
You see that finish, guy? Drilled it on the bottom corner. I couldn't believe the finish. But I'll go. No, I think West Ham will have too much of them. I agree. I think I'll 1-2-1 or.
I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to go 2-0 West Ham. Big one, 8 o'clock. Man United against Everton. You'll be on your second carrot at this stage. How do you see that going?
I'll go.
Just in case anyone thinks he's not an alcoholic, I'm only messing here.
I'll be probably what time? I'll be at the start of the game. I'll probably have 2 Guinness in me.
Just to ease the tension of it.
2 Guinness, and I'll go. Oh, Gary.
I actually think I'll go first here. I actually think United, Everton. I think when they win a game, they're the most vulnerable. The next game, I think the fact they beat Leeds the other night and they were hanging on towards the end, I think that's going to work in your favour. They can't seem to be. You always feel with Everton too, soft touch in these big games. So I think United are going to win this. I'm going to go for a 2-1, Man United 1.
I am confident because it was one of our best performances, I think, away to Everton this season. We were excellent against them. So I'll go I'll actually go 3-1 United.
Moving on to Sunday, 12 o'clock kickoff. I might actually purposely sleep on. They must this game. Spurs play West Brom. I'm going to let you go first because I really am stuck here. I can't. If this was any other game, I would say Spurs have no chance. But
I think he's might nick it. I think Spurs will win 2-1. It won't be easy. It'll be tighter than a lot of people think. I do think Mourinho will get a result here. He has to go a wee bit more the way they went in the second half there last night. I think he has to press high a wee bit more. So I think 2-1. West Brom will score, but they're still conceding too many goals.
I think this might be the game of Spurs keep a clean sheet on. I don't know where the goal is going to come from. I just have a feeling Spurs are going to nick it 1-0. And it's not going to ease any pressure, to be honest, because I think the pressure will still be on, but it'll obviously buy him a couple more games. But it could really do with Spurs going out here and expressing on getting 3 or 4 goals, but I just don't see it happening. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win. But if West Brom won, it wouldn't surprise me. I just think if it was any other game, I wouldn't be backing Spurs at all here. But I'm going to go 1-0 Spurs. Wolves Leicester 2 o'clock. How do you see that going, Colin?
Oh, Wolves are home.
They've been really poor this year, Wolves. I know they've had a lot of injuries, and I think Nuno's been really, really tested. I think that result the other night, it only happened because of the misfortunes Arsenal had. There's been rumours of them being under a bit of pressure. I think that will be very harsh because they've lost Jimenez and they obviously sold Jota. But they've brought that striker in now, Jose. Hopefully they get a few more goals. Because I think Nuno's playing a way that he doesn't want to play. They're being a lot more defensive. I think over the last few years, they've been a bit cautious, but they always had a bit of attacking fluidity about them. I think he's been forced to play a different way because they're not scoring enough goals. They have to make sure they aren't conceding. But Leicester away from home are a very dangerous team. I think Leicester should have played away from home. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Leicester 1.
I'm going to go 1-1. I think Wolves might gain a wee bit of confidence from that result against Arsenal, even though, especially that, I think I watched the first half. It was all Arsenal.
Arsenal actually played really well, eh?
That decision changed everything, obviously. And
Coutinho puts one on from 30 yards as well. That's not going to happen every game.
I know. It was a massive 3 points for them, and I think it might gain a wee bit of confidence. I have a wild thing about Leicester, although I can see that they're a good side. I just think they're capable of going on.
I just think Maddison and Tatum are in really, really good form. I think that helps when you've got players in good form. But half 4, the big one, Liverpool against Man City. I think it's a must not lose for Liverpool. I think they really need one of us if they're going to have any aspirations to retain their title. Going to let you go first, Colin. How do you see it going?
Right. My head says that I can't see anything other than a Man City 1 against that defence. But my heart is saying Liverpool's going to get a draw, and I'm going to stick with my heart, and I'm going to go 1 each.
I've got a theory, right? That because Liverpool's last couple of defeats at home, City might approach this a bit more positive than they would have done, right? And they're going to create chances. It's where they can pick them. And I've just got a funny feeling they're going to have one of them days up front. I don't think Jesus is reliable in terms of goals. They haven't been scoring goals for fun. They haven't been whacking them. 1-0 against Sheffield United, 2-0 against Burnley. They've been solid at the back, mind you. But I've just got a funny feeling that if this had happened a few weeks ago when Liverpool were on this, that unbeaten record they had, City might have been a bit more cautious. And it might have been a bit more of a 50-50 game, possession-wise. I think City are going to really come out of the blocks here and really put Liverpool under pressure because they're going to know they're vulnerable and their defence is going to be unsettled. And with De Bruyne out and obviously not having a lot of goals in their team at the minute, I just think they might suffer a wee bit. And I think it's going to be written for Liverpool with Mane and back that they're going to nick it. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Liverpool victory. That's the way I see it going. I just have that feeling that Liverpool are going to have that, maybe get a wee bit of good fortune, and then they're going to be ruthless. It's going to be a bit ruthless. Sheffield United against Chelsea is after 7:15. Sheffield United obviously turned their corner a bit, but they're still well adrift. They need to keep on this run if we're going to get out of it. I think that's going to be too much for them in the end. They're way behind still. Chelsea, I thought they were very, very ordinary against Spurs, and they'll probably have to play better here to get a result.
I think they will.
And you seen Tuchel, he was unhappy at times on the touchline last night. You could see there was things going wrong. That obviously the team's new to the system, and it's going to take time. But there's going to be upset. They're going to have wee defeats here and there and blips. And Sheffield United beat them last year at home. I think they beat them 3-0. I think it was one of them. Chelsea had a really bad day. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here. I think it could be quite tight.
I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea.
Chelsea. And on Monday Night Football, they turn it round. They finish the weekend, and obviously I hope the great Neville and Carragher. I'm sure Neville and Carragher's on because they usually have them on after a big game on a Sunday. So I think they'll be done for the Liverpool City game. So Leeds Palace. Palace are going to be very negative. They've been defensive and they counter-attack, which might suit against Leeds. Leeds were very unlucky against Everton. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Palace are playing the counter-attack, and they're decent in the counter-attack. I'll go 1-each to you.
Thanks to you. Happy days. Hey, Colin, great show. That sort of takes us free. Really good insight from yourself. Loved the Mourinho chat. Good outlook on the title race. I think we're going to know a lot more after this weekend. I'm sure if United won on Saturday, you'll be glued to that TV on Sunday, hoping that City don't win, and then all of a sudden these are right in the mix down the last sort of 15, 16 games. So, a lot to play for. Hopefully Spurs can get the result on Sunday. Ease the tension around the club at the moment. But I'm going to be back on Tuesday. I think I've got Josh Boyle coming on. They preview the Champions League. That's returning this week. I think is it the Champions League this week or is it next week? No, it's next week. Who have I got on Monday? Actually, who have I got on Tuesday? I've got Zach on. Zach's on. Big United man's coming on Tuesday. And then I've got Kevin Curran next Friday. That's going to be on. So a couple of good, and then Josh after that. So a couple of good boys lined up to come on. So if you're obviously stay tuned to the show, and hopefully you're enjoying. Colin, brilliant. Thanks very much. And I'll see you again.
Cheers. All the best.
Later on. Thank you.
Bye.